At 11 o'clock on a May morning, a crown touched Camilla's head and a clock started running. She did not hear it. Nobody inside that abbey did. But the clock was real, and it has been running quietly ever since. Because everything Camilla won that day, she won on loan. The title, the role, the houses she moves through as a matter of right, every part of it borrowed from the life of one man. And honestly, the part almost nobody says out loud is the simplest part of all. The day that one life ends, most of what she holds ends with her watching. Hers only while he breathes. There's a planning document inside the household. Staff, reportedly, have a quiet name for it. We will get to that single page near the end of this story, because on that page, Camilla's name appears only twice, and what sits printed beside it changes everything about how all of this ends. For nearly 30 years, the public watched a story with three people in it. Diana was the wife, Camilla was the other woman. Charles was the man standing between them. That is the version that fits on a magazine cover. The real version is colder, and it is built out of arithmetic, not gossip. Diana said it herself on national television in 1995. There were three of them in the marriage. She named the woman directly in her own voice with that flat and exhausted look so many of you remember. 2 years later, she was gone. A tunnel in Paris in August of 1997, 36 years old. 2 boys left without a mother. And the woman Diana had named did not fade away. She stayed. She married Charles in 2005. And then, 20 years after that, she walked into Westminster Abbey and was crowned beside him, wearing the late Queen's favourite tiara, the jewels catching the light as the cameras held on her face. If you watched that coronation in May of 2023, you saw the moment Camilla won. The climb was finished. The summit was reached. The other woman had become the queen. For her, that was supposed to be the ending of the story. Here is the thing the cameras could not show you. A summit you climb is still only a summit you stand on. It does not become yours simply because you reached it. And honestly, that is the detail this whole story turns on. She climbed for 30 years to a summit she does not own. Now look, none of what I am about to lay out is a leaked secret. The line of succession is a matter of public constitutional record. The titles, the order, what passes to whom, that is written down, and it is not gossip. The private arrangements around it are a different matter, and the palace guards those closely. So keep the line between the two in your mind as we go. Now here is where this stops being a love triangle and starts becoming a question of what survives. To understand Camilla's future, you have to understand the boy who walked behind that coffin. He was 15 years old in September of 1997. His hands hung loosely at his sides. His face gave nothing away. The streets of London were silent except for the sound of hooves on stone, and the whole world watched a child carry something no child should carry. That boy is 43 now, and he did not need to build a plan. He did not need a scheme, a dossier, or a single cruel word. Time handed him the cards, structure handed him the rest. When Queen Elizabeth died in September of 2022, the Duchy of Cornwall passed to William. That estate has existed since 1337. Farmland across 11 counties. Property in central London. Almost 700 years of land and income now under his direct control. And the houses Camilla would one day need to depend on sit inside that same world of decisions that belong to him. So William never had to lift a finger. The patient avenger did not have to avenge anything. The Constitution does the work for him, slowly, quietly, and on a timetable nobody can argue with. And he is not the only one in that family with a long memory. Anne dated Andrew Parker Bowles before he ever married Camilla. That is in the public record. 50 years later, Anne is the one senior royal in that building who carries both the institutional memory and the personal one. She does not protect Camilla. She does not ask anyone to slow down. In this family, when Anne stops shielding someone, the whole room reads it instantly. Now here is the part the magazine covers never explain, and it is the heart of everything. Camilla's title is Queen, but it is Queen as the wife of the reigning king. It is a title that lives and dies with the marriage to a man who sits on the throne. It is not a title she owns in her own right. It was never going to be. When a monarch dies, the widow does not keep the role of consort. Observers expect she would take a dowager style. Many people watching simply call it Queen Dowager, and that is what they assume comes next. Whether the palace ever uses that exact word, the substance is the same. The consort role does not pass through to a widow. It ends with the reign, and here is where people reach for the wrong comparison. They remember the Queen Mother, beloved for half a century, adored until the day she died. So surely Camilla becomes that, they think. But the Queen Mother held that place for one reason above all others. She was the mother of the reigning queen. The nation loved her as a mother of the crown itself. Camilla is not the mother of the next king. She never was. Diana is. And that single fact, more than any decision William will ever make, is the line Camilla cannot cross. The crown made her a queen. It can just as quietly make her a widow with no role at all. Now, obviously, succession is constitutional fact. The personal arrangements around it are not, and the palace guards them closely. But what is documented is documented. And what is documented is that the consort holds her position only as long as the king holds the throne. Hers only while he breathes. Now here is where the calm arithmetic starts to feel personal. Let us walk through what actually happens on the day the reign changes. Right now, Camilla moves through Buckingham Palace, Clarence House, Sandringham, and Balmoral as a matter of right. 3 of those 4 are Crown and Duchy property that pass straight to William. The likely homes left to Camilla are Clarence House, valued at around £72 million, and Highgrove, valued at around £39 million. Here is the part most coverage skips. Neither of those is her personal property. We covered this back when we walked through Highgrove and the Duchy. Highgrove sits inside the Duchy of Cornwall. Clarence House is a royal residence. She would live in both of them, not as an owner, but at the discretion of the man who watched her break his mother. A guest in houses that are not hers in a future she does not control. And the one place that actually was hers, she has already let go. Ray Mill House in Wiltshire. The country retreat she owned since before she married Charles. The garden she once called the best therapy in the world. We talked about this in an earlier video. It went on the market just before Christmas of 2024, and the sale was reportedly finished within 48 hours. People do not sell their one private sanctuary that fast. Not unless something fundamental has shifted in how they see their own future. She's not keeping it for retreat anymore. Sources suggest she has finally done the math. No title that survives him. No role that survives him. No private house of her own to fall back into. Just 2 residences she would occupy at someone else's pleasure. And now we reach that single page I promised you at the very beginning. Inside the household, there is reportedly a planning file, the kind every institution keeps for the moment one reign becomes the next. Staff have given it a quiet name. They call it the continuity file. It does only one thing. It lays out in plain procedural language what shifts on the day everything shifts. On one page of that file, dated last spring, Camilla's name reportedly appears exactly twice. Once beside Clarence House, once beside Highgrove, and printed after each one, the same 4 words, at the new king's discretion. No tiara, no roll, no mention of the word queen. Just a woman, 2 borrowed houses, and the discretion of a man who was 15 behind a coffin. Now look, we cannot independently verify the wording of any private household file, and the palace will not confirm it exists. But you do not need the file. The constitutional reality already says exactly what that page would say. The file is just the paperwork catching up to the arithmetic. According to one version circulating among palace staff, Anne was asked earlier this year whether all of this was harsh on Camilla. She reportedly answered in 5 plain words. Titles end. Mothers do not. Whether she said it in that exact shape or not, it sounds precisely like Anne, because her whole life has been brutal, quiet directness. And the meaning lands the same either way. Sources describe Camilla's private reaction as the response of someone watching her own future get taken apart, not in one dramatic blow, but in 100 quiet realizations. She has reportedly asked aides about specific arrangements. She has reportedly raised questions about what would be hers and what would not. The answers come back procedural, formal, and final. There is nothing to fight. Nobody has moved against her. There is only structure, and structure does not negotiate. You cannot litigate arithmetic. You cannot file a complaint against the Constitution. You cannot demand that a reign lasts longer than a life. She won the marriage, she won the title, she won the crown. But none of those 3 were ever hers to keep. And somewhere in the past year, she finally understood that. And here is the part that genuinely hurts. Charles knows. He understands exactly how the structure works because he is the structure. He was diagnosed with cancer in February of 2024. He has carried his public duties with real discipline across 2 hard years, and that deserves to be said plainly and with respect. But a man cannot legislate his way around the Constitution he embodies, and he would not if he could. So the cruelest twist in the whole story is the one nobody expected. The thing dismantling Camilla's future is not William's anger. It is not Anne's long memory. It is the quiet, ordinary fact of one man's mortality and the rules that man represents. The very man she climbed 30 years to reach is the same man her entire position now hangs upon. She did not lose to an enemy. She is losing to the calendar. Diana never lived to see what this monarchy would become. She got a tunnel in Paris, 2 boys without a mother, a family that barely lowered its flags. But here is the inversion that explains everything. Diana is the mother of the future. Camilla is the wife of the present. The past belongs to Diana. The future belongs to her son. And the present belongs to a tired man who understands all of it and has no answer for any of it. That is not revenge. Nobody had to take revenge. It is something quieter and far more permanent. It is arithmetic. Camilla spent her whole life climbing to a summit, propped up by a single life she cannot protect and cannot extend. The power was always borrowed, and what is borrowed from one man comes due with that man. Hers only while he breathes. Next video, hook. Camilla's future rests entirely on Charles. But there is one promise Charles made long ago to his own mother that may decide everything that happens next. What did Elizabeth make him swear?